Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Southampton Baptist Church Sunday morning message. It is Christmas time, and we are in Advent, and this is here a representation of the candle of love, which is for this week. We are celebrating the candle of love. So we're asking the question, what is love? What is love? How do you define love? What do you think of love? And then what is the contrast to that? What is God's love? Which is what we celebrate a lot on Christmas, God's love. So what is love? How do you define it? How do you see love? A lot of times people see love, I think of like romance, or I think of friendship, or I think of working alongside someone and teamwork and that kind of thing. And that's what I kind of see love as. But love is, I was reminded this week driving home from work, that love is not just that. That is the nice part of love. Love is hard. True love is very hard. It's really hard. When you have difficult things go through your life, and or if you have difficult, trying times, in order for things to continue and do well within that relationship or within that system or wherever you're at, it takes love. As you know, like people joke around sometimes and say, "This is a work of love." This is the case. Love is hard. Like Paul says, love is self-control, love is patience, love is kind in the midst of a trial. That's what love is. Now, what is God's love? Is God's love any different from that? Well, no, God's love is that, but God's love is, I feel, more than that. But a lot of things that we deal with in life, we have conditions, or there's certain levels or things when we would stop showing love and we would separate ourselves from a situation. But with God, that's not the case. God's love is unconditional. Let me give you an example. In the Bible, you have, from the very beginning and throughout the entire thing, you have God showing us this unconditional love. It begins with Adam and Eve in the garden. God makes them this wonderful garden, a wonderful place to live. They don't even need a house. It's just a wonderful environment. And they are innocent, and it's wonderful, and there's pretty much go and enjoy everything that I have made for you, as God tells them. Go and enjoy every single thing. Just don't touch this red button. If you touch this red button, it's all going to burn, right? And that's the knowledge, the tree of the knowledge of the good and the evil. Right? God says, don't touch that tree. Don't eat from the fruit. And they do it. Burns, right? It all just is destroyed. And they have to leave the garden. They can't stay there. The entire situation God had for them was destroyed. Then you go fast forward a little bit more, and you go into the period Noah's around. And God is trying to work with the people and bring them to himself. And no one follows God. No one follows their Father God in heaven, except for one man. And it seems that God had to have favor on him in order for him to follow him, because it mentions God's favor first in the Bible. So really nobody would have followed God if he didn't in some way, by his grace and mercy, come down and touch Noah. And he tries, Noah then for, it seems, about 120 years, tries to tell people to come back, to come to God, that God's trying to save you, and no one listens. He has this wonderful plan that he's made for them and everything, and they just completely reject him. Then God sets up a plan of kind of a beginning of salvation, a plan of redemption. And it says, you can come back if you do this particular thing, and I'll never flood the earth again, and just do these different things. And you just need to listen to me. And none of them listen. They then go on, continue on the story, the Tower of Babel, right? And people completely reject God's call to go and scatter all over the earth and discover all the wonderful things that God has created, and multiply and fill the earth and be filled with joy and love one another. And they completely reject that idea, and they instead build a tower. It goes against everything that God asked them to do, and God, instead of sending a flood again or something like that, he, in his love, judges them in a different way, and in his justice judges them in a different way, and he then finally scatters them by confounding their languages. And then it goes on, right? Then it goes on in the story, and then God has a people for himself, and he says, okay, I have a land for you, I have all this stuff for you, and he has all the nations around that land, and the plan is for them all to get along and to work well with each other, and to prosper, to grow. And they just completely all the nations, not just Israel or Judah, right? Or, however you want to see it, but all of the nations, they all fail and they just can't get along, can't love each other. And this case with pretty much everybody on the planet. And so at what point as a parent would you say, all right, enough's enough? Let's put this into your situation. So you are there and you give your kids a house, right? And you say, this is a nice house. I designed it myself. I know what you like. This is all these different things are all included. It's like that show when the guys people used to come by and buy people homes and that needed a home, and they design it perfectly for them. And, people would watch that show and cry, and it would be like this amazing story. And it really was. It's an amazing show. I love that show. And that's exactly what this is like, right? God created this planet for us, this earth for us. So say you're that planet parent, you do the same thing. Don't touch the red button though, because if you touch the red button, it'll all burn. Just don't do that. And then your kid does it, right? Does this sound familiar? And then you go on a little bit further and you say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to give my kid a house right now, but I'm going to give them a nice piece of property, maybe help them out with some stuff. And there's going to be some people on the land there. Their neighbors are next to them. And if they all just get along, then they're going to really prosper on this land and they're going to do really well. And it's going to be a blessing for them in the future. And I got a big plan for them coming down the pike a little bit later. Just don't do this one particular thing or these few things and everything's going to be okay. And then your kids do it, right? Then they do it and they burn the land or everything is destroyed eventually. So would you continue on with giving your kids stuff? Would you continue doing that? Or would you, as a parent, honestly, would you just like do little things here and there and help them grow little at a time, right? That's what most people would do. That's what most people do, right? Then God says, you know what? This is the difference between us and God. God's love is unconditional. God is amazing. He exudes with life and power, and he's awesome. And he says, you know what? I'm not going to give them a home. I'm not going to give them any more land. I'm going to give them myself. And as I give myself, I'm going to give them my home. And I'm going to give them my land. And I'm going to give them myself in such a way that I am one with them so that I can come alongside them and show them the right way to go about things and not the wrong way. And that's what God does. And he does it in such a way where he comes as an innocent child to experience everything that we experienced and more. That's God. That's unconditional love. And as time goes on, we are experiencing God's kingdom. As time goes on and as you walk with God, if you do walk with God, and I encourage you all to walk with God, you experience God's kingdom. You remember the things of the past, as we're just talked about. Remember the things that he's doing in our lives now. And we look to the future and we know we have hope, true, real hope of the future, an expectation of what God is going to do for us because we know and we experience God's love, his unconditional love, which changes us. So this Christmas, when you look at the nativity scene, remember that's a picture of God saying, you know what? I'm not going to destroy them all, or I'm not going to just like do this little thing and micromanage or like whatever else. No, I'm going to really come alongside, support them, love them, be one with them, and connect with them. So I can lead them out of the situations that they're in, lead them out of the morass they're in, and go on. So the call, the challenge, the thing I have for you guys today to do, that I want you to do throughout the rest of the year, but remember this week in the time of love, during this time of Advent and during this time of Christmas, is to love as much as you can as God has loved. Try doing that. Try loving people, your neighbors, your friends, your family, yourself to some degree, right? As much as God has loved you. Try doing that. When you look at that baby in the nativity, remember that that is a picture of God's unbelievable, unconditional love in such a way that you would never, ever do, right? Love shown in such a way that you would never show, right? And it's very difficult, but I know I have belief and I have faith that you can do it. And if you have not experienced the love of God and the ability to do that kind of love, then I say that you should call on God's name and ask him to come into your life this Christmas. Experience God's great and amazing love. It's a celebration. All right. God bless you all. Have a wonderful rest of the week. God bless you, and may God love you, and may you love each other. God bless you.